Hello and welcome to another Dev Diary video on Imperator Rome 2.0 Marius update, as well as the Heirs of Alexander DLC pack that we also covered in last week's Dev Diary. So if you haven't checked that out, go on and check out that video and come back to this one because this is a follow-up to last week. So let's get into it. First of all, this one is by Aries, aka... Yeah. Hi everybody. It's a pleasure for me to make my official debut on the forums by presenting some of my work in the past months. This is Claudia. I am Claudia. This is Claudia. From the content design team on Imperator Rome. As you might have guessed, there's plenty of Diadochi-themed goodies in the incoming Heirs of Alexander DLC. Today we are focusing on Ptolemaic Egypt. While not as adventurous or glamorous as his direct rivals, Ptolemaeus I founded the most successful and renowned of the Diadochi kingdoms, which lasted until 30 BC when Ptolemaeus' last descendant, the famous Cleopatra VII, was defeated and her kingdom annexed by the Romans. The 4 new missions from the DLC will accompany you through the greatest achievements and most challenging times of the Ptolemies, focusing on the early kings, Ptolemies 1st through 3rd, encouraging you to emulate and even surpass their successes. Each mission focuses on one side of the Ptolemaic politics, the conflict with the Antigonids first and the Seleucids later in Palestine and Phoenicia, the constant menace from the neighboring people of Cyrenaica and Kush, the dominion over the eastern Mediterranean, and the economic and cultural development of Egypt, and in particular of its capital, Alexandria. Very cool. So this dev diary is entirely devoted to the missions that are being crafted for the upcoming DLC for specifically Ptolemaic Egypt. So let's take a look here. So this is how the missions tree starts. So you have, you have these Levantine missions here. So you probably have to, pacify Judea and Sidon and the various Phoenician states, somehow get a hold of that whole eastern Mediterranean coastline along the Levant, it looks like. And of course, the Antigonids start right there too. So both historically and in the current build of Imperator Rome, the Antigonids meet the Ptolemies, typically in that area. In modern day Lebanon, Syria type area. They fight over it for centuries. And then the Seleucids come into the picture a bit later. So it looks like you're going in that direction. And they finish up this tree on the next page, which comes down to coastal dominion. So, Thracian menace. Interesting. Cilician trade. Okay, so Cilicia is that southern tip of Anatolia, right? Along just north of Cyprus. Okay, so it looks like they want you expanding that way. Now, I've pulled up this handy-dandy map to help sort of conceptualize what they're talking about in this dev diary. So here they're talking about Ptolemaic Egypt, of course. You take over as the Ptolemies. Now, this is not how the beginning of the game looks for us. In fact, this says Seleucid Empire. Don't worry about that. This is just a view of the Diadochi kingdoms as they were, during the time of Imperator Rome. So you're fighting over this area with the Antigonids, later the Seleucids, and of course the Antigonids lose out here and are driven entirely from Anatolia. They pop up later as the kings of Macedon, no less, but they're driven out of the area where they start in Imperator Rome and are replaced by the Seleucids. So that's going to be reflected in the mission tree that Egypt has going forward. And then maybe the Seleucids will, and the Antigonids, maybe we're going to get a whole bunch of new mission trees, who knows. And also, Cyprus was a huge part of the Ptolemaic kingdom, or rather, it's what their kings, pharaohs, they all very much valued it, and it went back and forth a lot in this time period, from my understanding. Yeah, the Cilician traders, Cilician pirates. So Cilicia is this area right down here, and Antioch is this dot here. So that's the Antioch's down here, but Cilicia is like this area where the cursor is. So, and I think that, Ptolemaic kingdom encompassed like the southern coastline as well as the end of Cyprus and the eastern Mediterranean here. So you're fighting for hegemony with your rivals in this region, if that weren't apparent enough. Okay, let's keep going. Palestine and Phoenicia have always been the natural direction of Egyptian expansion. That's what we were just saying. Just think that the famous Battle of Kadesh at Pharaoh Ramses II was fought almost 1,000 years before our start date for this same area. Yeah, he's talking about, they are talking about around here, this area. Yeah. Egypt, that was their historical, traditional extent of their borders was that area. They had a hard time expanding beyond that. Okay, the Ptolemies contended this area against the Antigonids first and the Seleucids later for centuries, with alternating fortunes. In this mission, you will lead Egypt to the limits of its historical expansion in Syria and beyond, while facing the specific challenges and reaping the unique benefits these lands have to offer. For instance, Judea was a turbulent subject for their Hellenistic overlords of this period, e.g. the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucids in 167 to 160 BC. However, if Egypt succeeds in improving your relationship with the locals, you will gain a juicy historical event chain. Who can guess what these ambassadors have to offer? Okay, so Judea and Samaria start the game currently in Imperator Rome as tributaries of the Antigonid Kingdom. And historically, I think that they flipped to the Ptolemies and then they flipped to the Seleucids. And the Seleucid, the first generation of leadership there was pretty good, but then after like 3 or 4 kings, there was a revolt there, and this, the famous Maccabean revolt. Yeah, so we get a chance to play this out. Now, there's already sort of an event chain around Judea if you conquer it, but to see that fleshed out would be absolutely awesome. I'm sure that a lot of players are sort of looking for that because that region was famously rebellious, let's say. So we get a little taste of what they're talking about with this image here. So Judea pacified. Since the time we subjugated all the lands of the Hebrews, our relations with the locals have become increasingly positive. More and more of their intellectuals have found a new home in Alexandria, where they have been deeply Hellenized, and their wisdom has contributed to the development of a rich intercultural dialogue. Thanks to their mediation, the Hebrew people of Palestine now see us as friends and protectors, and no more as invading enemies. While they are unwilling to abandon their peculiar local religion, they are becoming more and more Hellenized in culture and costume. Against this backdrop, a delegation of Alexandrine Jewish scholars has come to Ptolemaeus the First Soter-Leged with an offer. Let's hear what they have to say. This is awesome. Okay, cool. So, yeah, this is based on, historical events. So, of course, there was a Jewish quarter in Alexandria during this time because the library there, of course, all of the scholars of the ancient world congregated in the library of Alexandria, and it being lost is one of the great tragedies of our history because who knows, we don't know, cannot contemplate the amount of ancient source material that was lost in the library. But among them were works of Jewish scholarship, and there was also the phenomenon of Hellenistic Judaism that was going around the time when the Diadochi took over the region. And while I'm no expert on this period of history, it is certainly fascinating. And so it sounds like, okay, thanks to their mediation, let's see, okay. While they're unwilling to abandon their peculiar local religion, they're becoming more and more Hellenized in culture and costume. So this tells me that basically you can convert them, or you can culture convert them, but you might have a really difficult time getting the Judean and Sumerian people to go along with Hellenism. So we will have to see how this plays out. So I know that building like a local pantheon, trying to make good with the different cultures that are integrated into your empire or kingdom, and the different religions as well. So you can construct your own custom local pantheon, which of course is really good for the Ptolemaic Egypt because they use, they deify Alexander and he's in their pantheon, and they use Egyptian and Greek deities and so on and so forth. But this group of people being monotheistic is of course a little different. So I wonder if they're going to deal with that in this patch. Let's keep going. Okay, unruly neighbors, Greater Empire. The Greater Empire mission. Okay, so we have Red Sea Ventures. So this is going south into Kush, I guess. Brave Navigators, Land of Ebony, Sicilian Ventures. So that's going all the way to Sicily, I guess. The people of Cyrenaica. Cyrenaica mattered. Western Greek. So I guess this mission has you subjugating in all the directions that the first mission tree did not. So it has you going south and west and northwest instead of east and northeast as before. Okay, and this finishes out with, there's elephant trade here and ruler of Africa. So this is all very much concentrating on the African continent, centered around Egypt. Alright, let's read. As you can see, this mission has 3 main directions. On one side, you are encouraged to strengthen your position on the Red Sea by sending explorers. I wonder how that works. I mean, there are no explorer units currently. I wonder if this is a new mechanic or dynamic that they will be expanding on later? Not sure. Let's keep going. Expanding ports and conquering trading posts, which will force you to deal with Egypt's historical nemesis, the Kush. On the opposite side, and Kush is also a lot of fun to play as and form Egypt. You can form like an older kingdom Egypt, kick out the Hellenes, and go back to a previous type of Egyptian spiritual rule as the Kush, that's a lot of fun to play as well. I hope that the Kush at some point get the attention that the Diadochi have been getting recently, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so let's keep going. On the opposite side, you have the unstable western border with Cyrenaica. Despite being mostly of Greek culture, let's take a look at the map again. Cyrenaica is over here, so according to this map, it is subjugated by the Ptolemaic kingdom, as is, pretty much all of Kush. So the game starts with Egypt pretty much in this quadrant here. I guess there's a bit more of it going this way, but it cuts up Cyrenaica as its own thing, and there's a client state like right here, and then below that are Kushite kingdoms, and over here is Judea. And the border with the Antigonids is like at Gaza down here or so. Right. So the second mission tree has you going down this way into the Red Sea, which is here, and against the Kush, and to the west against the Cyrenaicans. Okay, so Cyrenaica was hardly integrated into the Ptolemaic kingdom and offered a naturally restless playground for disloyal princes of the court. Alright, so if we want some intrigue with the Ptolemies, and the Ptolemies have no shortage of intrigue in their family history, it looks like Cyrenaica was a place to sort of go. A disaffected royal could maybe go plot something in Cyrenaica, find a sympathetic ear or two to the scheming. I don't know. None of that is really in Imperator Rome currently, but if they're going to throw in some dynamics like that, some more intrigue, as it were, skullduggery, that would be very welcome, but don't want to overdo it, of course. So I don't know, first of all, a couple of ambiguous terms here. Explorers, setting explorers, what does that mean exactly? And expanding ports, that makes sense. That usually, you can click to improve it in a city or something. Conquering trading posts, conquering is very straightforward. So yeah, I don't know what they mean by explorers, and I don't know what they mean by it being a naturally restless playground for disloyal princes of the court. So are disloyal princes gonna, like, go over to Cyrenaica and start some stuff? I hope so. That sounds cool. Now, I don't, this note here, okay. Before you freak out, yes, there were already some events dealing with Magus Revolt. Yes, they have been expanded upon and integrated into the mission. No, the previous events have not been paywalled. Instead, the central path is a cheeky challenge. Can you do better than Alexander himself and set up a western branch of the Macedonian Empire? Okay. I was not gonna freak out, but okay. So the Magus Revolt is another historical event that they're going to tie into the mission trees here in Imperator Rome 2.0. Heirs of Alexander DLC. Alright, on a different topic. Did you know that any attempt by the Ptolemies to breed African elephants for their army failed, so they were forced to capture wild elephants where they lived naturally? In modern-day Eritrea and Sudan. I did not know that. Okay, so this is one of the missions you can get. Elephant Trade Hunting Ground. Yeah, so it's securing trade, and yeah, it's securing elephant trade right here. This is one of the mission items, which I think is really cool. I think it's better. This is better than just like, oh hey, the province has the elephant, you can have it now. You should be able to do something, and then the elephants. Well, we'll see how balanced they are in the game. But let's see what this has to say. We have finally secured control over an African breeding ground of elephants. Ptolemaeus Theron will serve as our base from which hunting expeditions will depart towards the inland, and ships loaded with elephants will travel north to the mustering grounds where they will be trained to fight in our army. Hunting expeditions are dangerous and costly. They require time and hundreds of qualified hunters, and the risk of reducing the wild elephant's population too drastically is always present. But this is the only way to ensure that our army can keep up with our eastern rivals. Alright, so they're making getting elephants a thing that you have to do. It's hard, and it's not easy to get your elephants. So I do wonder if there's going to be a rebalance of how well they do in combat, because or how well they do with attrition. I don't know. There are a lot of things potentially in play with the elephants here. I wonder how difficult it is going to be to get this breeding ground, and what kind of payoff is going to be associated with it. Elephants can turn the tide of any battle, that they can, but they're super expensive and they take a lot of attrition. Okay, modernizing Egypt, the Macedonian pharaoh. So of course the Ptolemies were the last dynasty of pharaohs. They called themselves pharaoh, as was the local tradition, and Cleopatra VII was the last pharaoh historically. Cleopatra VII was also the last Ptolemy, and they were Macedonian, of course. So the Macedonian pharaoh, which is Ptolemy, all of the Ptolemies. So this probably has to do with building up Alexandria, which was, in the Hellenistic period, of course, the greatest city in the Mediterranean, which made it high in the running for greatest city in the world. So developing the whole Nile Valley area, and center of world trade, entryway of the Mediterranean, Nilotic trade, city of wonders, city of gods. So there's a lot to develop in Egypt. Egypt, of course, is rich with not only the fertile soil and all the food. They call it the breadbasket of the empire, so it can grow a lot of grain, but there's also a great, of course, cultural and historical heritage there that can be taken advantage of, or it could possibly hinder you, depending on what you do. And Alexandria was, a glorious city of the time, and that's already sort of represented. Alexandria is already, kind of the center of events in Imperator Rome. In a lot of ways, at least in the Eastern Mediterranean. So this is very cool, very cool. So we have sort of expansion, and we have trade, and we have development, all reflected in these mission trees. All right, and they finished these out with Ptolemaic festival. Right, they did love to have festivals in Alexandria and Ptolemaic Egypt. They loved to sort of have iconography of the Ptolemaic kings and pharaohs, lots of pomp, lots of really cool things, exotic, expensive. Okay, and syncretism. Now, syncretism is a big part of this, because obviously you have the Hellenistic and Egyptian pantheons that you need to juggle as the head of a Macedonian Egypt, as it were. This mission is entirely focused on developing your starting provinces and echoes the internal politics of the early Ptolemies. The city of Alexandria is the main focus of the tree, founded as a beacon of Greekness in Egypt by Alexander. The city was transformed into the Hellenistic world's true capital by Ptolemy I and his descendants. By developing the city's infrastructure, investing in festivals. Oh, you can invest in festivals now? Fantastic. So the festivals historically were one of the sort of characteristic features of Hellenistic Alexandria, when it was, as they say, the capital of the Hellenistic world. So, and the building wonders, of course, we knew that was going to be a part of this 2.0 when they announced it way back in, like 2 months ago. Dev Diary announcing the special Wonders edition to Imperator Rome. So, awesome. We're going to have festivals, we're going to have wonders, we're going to have new cults. You grow your capital into the finest city in the world. On the other hand, the Ptolemies did not neglect the Chora, i.e. everything outside the cities, and you won't either, by investing in the colonization and reclamation of the lands along the Nile. Colonization and reclamation? Are those going to be uninhabited now? Because there's nothing like that. All of the lands of Egypt are inhabited at the start of the game, currently. So this is very cool. I expect some pretty big landscape changes. I mean, the map is probably going to be quite different when 2.0 finally drops. Egypt was the home of a very ancient and well-rooted religion, so, among the Ptolemies, politics of integration between the locals and the new Hellenic elite, a place of honor was held by the introduction of syncretic cults. Gods that did not belong to either Hellenic or Egyptian religion originally were meant to become a neutral part to both. To reflect the gradual and incidental nature of such innovations, these new cults will be introduced by missions, such as below, and follow-up events. Can you guess who the mysterious god is? Okay, so syncretism, this is really cool. I thought that maybe because they came out with that religion rework, I forget which patch it was, but before the Banander update with the culture rework, they did a religion rework, and I thought that they might just sort of be done, but it looks like they're going to keep adding to that, because I thought syncretism is a really cool idea that they should look into more, because now this works even with, because we mentioned above, like Hellenistic Judaism was a thing. You can look it up on Wikipedia, and that was an example of syncretism of the time, and instead of just having, pick and choose this god and that god and form a custom pantheon, which is cool, especially the deify ruler thing is pretty cool. I wonder if there's another way to sort of get a new religion, instead of Hellenic or Egyptian, the two colors that represent those two on the map respectively. Instead of that, you get just a new religion with a new color. I don't know, I'm sort of spitballing here, but I guess they're still messing with this, and syncretism is back and it's at the forefront, which I'm quite excited about. Let's read this here. Our Basilius, Ptolemus I Soter-Legged, had a dream. A mysterious god appeared to him in the semblance of a majestic man, with a modius on his head and a scepter in his hand. Cerberus rested peacefully at his feet. The god commanded Ptolemaeus to collect his statue from Sinope, where he is worshipped as Pluton, and to bring his cult to Alexandria. Ptolemaeus, perturbed, has sent for wise priests to interpret his dream. Ptolemaeus seeks for answers. I don't know. Can you guess who this mysterious god is? That's the question up here. I can't. I don't know. I don't know who this is. But Sinope is, up here, right? So it's not in Egypt. Protector of the Aegean Sea, Asian harbors, naval power, a Greek foothold, the matter of roads, Cyprian docks. Okay, Lord of the Mediterranean. Yeah, so this is Alexander's throne. Interesting. Wonder what that does. Now, this is all about building up your navy, if that wasn't obvious enough. Having naval supremacy in the Eastern Mediterranean during the wars of the Diadochi was a big deal, of course, and with naval supremacy, then you can enforce your will much more easily. I'm a bit surprised that Cyprus isn't featured a bit more heavily, because that went back and forth all the time. So I did see one thing about Cyprus. Cyprian docks here. So at some point you're going to have to get Cyprus, I suppose. Okay, finally to the last mission. Its starting point is given by Ptolemy's interest and challenges from our starting date to his death. Still, the mission itself pushes the boundaries of Ptolemaic achievements and encourages you to answer the question, what would have happened if Ptolemy's maritime politics had been entirely successful and he had won the race to sea control against Demetrius? Secure historical Ptolemaic bases, challenge the other Diadochi in Greece, and become the Eastern Mediterranean's hegemon to find out. There was no love lost between Ptolemaeus and Antigonus. Yeah, they didn't like each other very much. Very cool. So I wonder if they're going to... So, as it is now, right, the Antigonid kingdom almost never goes away. Like, it's always there throughout the whole game. Of course, historically, when Antigonus was slain, the Antigonid kingdom, as it's represented in Imperator Rome, ceases to be. So basically, it had one king. There were most campaigns have that as many generations of kings descended from Antigonus or what have you. But in reality, what happened was, at the time there was Cassander who was ruling Macedon, and Antigonus was slain, but somehow Demetrius, Antigonus' son, and ended up on the Macedonian throne and getting rid of Cassander and his house. Now I wonder if that's going to be something that is scripted to occur, or maybe scripted to occur more frequently in 2.0. I hope so, because I would like to see history portrayed a bit more faithfully but they're clearly making a huge effort to do that for 2.0. Alright, let's read this last screenshot here. Only Antigonus I, Monophthalmus, Antigonid, and his son Demetrius ever tried to gain complete control of the Aegean Sea before. Only Ptolemaeus I Soter Legate succeeded where they failed. Now, the numerous islands of the Aegean Sea are all under our protection and, for the first time, benefit from peace and safety under the same banner. The islanders celebrate our arrival with festivals and offerings to the gods. Take that, Antigonus, you old fool. So this looks like you can get all of those little islands, Naxos and whatnot. All the islands in the Aegean Sea can fall under your protection as client states or vassals or whatever. All right, on this note, I'm concluding my dev diary. I hope you're looking forward to leading the Ptolemies to greatness and will have fun with these new missions. Cheers. Okay, so this is very cool. It's just a mission pack, but a very thorough and revealing one. And one of the takeaways is how committed they are to sort of changing the generic feel of just, hey, here's the setup and go, to maybe sort of scripting events to be a little more aligned with history, as it were. And I'm interested to see what they do to maybe rescript events to happen along those lines. I'm not sure, but what do you think? I would love to know what you think about this mission tree, as well as the upcoming Heirs of Alexander and Marius 2.0 coming out soon. And in case you're wondering, no, there is not a release date announced yet. There is no announced release date, so we still do not know, unfortunately, when either Heirs of Alexander DLC or Marius 2.0 are coming out. But please, until the next Dev Diary, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.